Fire, the conversation nobody wants to have, but everyone needs to hear. Let's be honest. There's a brutal truth about relationships that no one dares to say out loud. We've been spoon-fed this fairy tale nonsense that love conquers all, that forgiveness is divine, that everyone deserves a second chance. But here's the cold, psychological reality. Some actions don't deserve forgiveness. Some betrayals are so corrosive they don't just break your heart. They dismantle your sense of self. You see, there comes a point where forgiving someone isn't noble anymore. It's self-destruction. Because when someone repeatedly crosses your boundaries, manipulates your trust, and chips away at your dignity, you're not loving them. You're abandoning yourself. Today, we're talking about the unforgivable acts, the red lines that should never, ever be crossed. Not out of hate, not out of revenge, but out of self-respect. Because here's the truth nobody tells you. Forgiveness without change isn't healing. It's enabling abuse. 1. Systematic lying, the death of reality. This isn't about white lies or surprise parties. It's about deception that builds alternate realities, fake worlds where they get to control what's true. They lie about where they are, who they're with, what they're spending. And when you catch them, they twist it until you doubt your own memory. I once had a client whose girlfriend lied about everything. The price of groceries, working late, even invented stories about him being abusive to her friends just to cover her tracks. Turns out, she'd hidden $30,000 in credit card debt and a secret phone full of dating apps. Lying wasn't her problem. It was her strategy. Every small lie was a test. $3 coffee when it's $7. A late meeting, that's actually happy hour. Each lie you let slide teaches them one thing. Your trust has no boundaries. And once they learn that, you're living in their reality, not yours. 2. Public humiliation disguised as humor. You know the type. The partner who turns your insecurities into punchlines. Oh, don't ask him about money. You can't even balance a checkbook. She's trying to lose weight again. Let's see how long this lasts. It's not humor. It's psychological warfare dressed as a joke. They chip away at your reputation so slowly that when you protest, you're told you're too sensitive. But jokes are supposed to make everyone laugh, not just the one telling them. When someone mocks you publicly to elevate themselves, they're not joking. They're establishing dominance. And when contempt enters a relationship, love doesn't die instantly. It rots from the inside out. I once counseled a man whose wife mocked him in front of family for years. When he finally left, it took 2 years of therapy for him to believe his opinions mattered again. 3. Emotional blackmail, the weaponization of love. If you leave, I'll kill myself. If you loved me, you would. Guess I'm just not enough for you. These aren't pleas for love. They're emotional grenades. Manipulators are emotional terrorists. They take your compassion hostage and demand obedience as ransom. They know your soft spots, your empathy, your guilt, your need to be good. But here's the truth bomb. Someone who truly loves you doesn't weaponize your kindness. They don't make you responsible for their happiness. Because love that demands your suffering isn't love, it's control. For boundary violation disguised as intimacy. They say, I'm just worried about you, while scrolling through your phone at 2 a.m. They drop by your workplace to surprise you, but really, they're checking if you're alone. They interrogate you about every friend, every text, every outfit, and call it love. That's not intimacy. That's surveillance. And it's one of the most sinister forms of control because it masquerades as devotion. True intimacy is built on trust, not intrusion. When someone believes they have the right to invade your privacy in the name of love, they've already crossed into ownership. Because in the end, love without respect isn't love. Forgiveness without boundaries isn't healing. And staying after the unforgivable isn't loyalty, it's self-betrayal. Dialogue, every friendship, and every time you are apart, they'll present this as selfless love and their inability to control themselves. But it's ownership, not affection. Being private isn't about hiding anything. It has to do with preserving personal identity in a partnership. When someone transgresses your boundaries, they are implying that your independence is unimportant. They're arguing that you don't merit the fundamental decency of being regarded as an individual with your own ideas, emotions, and life experiences. For safety, I've witnessed people set up tracking applications on their partner's phone, examine bank statements line by line, and ask for justifications. Attend girls' or boys' nights because they missed you too much. This is monitoring, not romance. Additionally, you are no longer partners once surveillance gets accepted in a partnership. You are both a warden and a prisoner. Any form of physical assault is the sixth unforgivable act. Before someone responds, but men are stronger. Remember that violence is abuse regardless of the perpetrator. Pushing, slapping, pounding walls, hurling things, and damaging property. These are not angry outbursts. They are manifestations of power. I will use force to control you, they are claiming. This is what makes physical aggression so hazardous. It always gets worse. The push turns into a shove. The shove turns into a smack. The slap turns into a blow. Additionally, the perpetrator learns that violence is effective from every act of violence that is pardoned, that you'll remain, that you'll overlook, that their rage is more important than your safety. When drinking, the partner of someone I knew would turn violent. Began with hostile motions, shifted to hurling objects, eventually turned into overt physical assaults. There were always tears, apologies, and vows to change. The problem with those who utilize violence, however, is this. They only do it to those they believe will stay. When they're upset, they don't strike their employer. They don't hurl objects at law enforcement. It is under their authority. They decide not to accompany you. The sixth unforgivable conduct is the control and exploitation of money. This is the individual who spends your money carelessly while concealing their own, who destroys your career in order to maintain your dependence, who accrues debt under your name. Someone keeps their resources apart while treating yours as their own. Money is more than simply cash. It's options, freedom, and security. Someone is in charge of your future when they manipulate or take advantage of your money. Financial abuse frequently goes unnoticed by others. The individual who consistently forgets their wallet, who always requires your money in an emergency, or who quits their job and expects you to provide for them without conversation. If you want financial boundaries, they will make you feel bad about it. Do you not have faith in me? Couples share everything, but sharing calls for reciprocity and consent rather than taking something all at once. The intentional removal from support networks is the eighth unforgivable conduct. This is strategic and gradual. They dislike the friends you have. Your family is poisonous. Too much time is spent on your interests at the expense of your relationship. They gradually and methodically eliminate all of your support networks until they're the only thing that gives you emotional connection. This isn't a romantic intimacy. Competition is eliminated by control. The abuser's best friend is isolation. Their interpretation of reality becomes the sole reality in the absence of external viewpoints. It becomes impossible to leave in the absence of support networks. You have no one to confirm that what you're going through is abnormal if you don't have friends or relatives. They want nothing more than to become your entire universe. I've seen people lose friendships that lasted for decades because their partner didn't get along with them. Give up their jobs since they were required at home by their partner. They left their family since their lover didn't like them. And the actual torture starts after isolation. Because if you recognize it for yourself, there's no one to tell you that it is abuse and nowhere to flee to. Infidelity is the ninth unforgivable conduct. Furthermore, I don't give a damn about what contemporary culture claims about how complicated it is. A person who cheats makes a number of conscious decisions. The decision to go after someone else. The decision to tell a falsehood about it. The decision to put your health at risk. The decision to betray your confidence. The decision to degrade you. Every text, every meeting, every lie is an act of choosing to put their happiness ahead of your suffering. However, we were going through a difficult time, but my needs weren't being met by you. However, it simply occurred. Nothing just happens, number. Every affair involves preparation, deceit, and decision-making. If there are issues in the relationship, you talk about them. You can either work on it or depart if needs aren't being satisfied. You cannot maintain your primary relationship while maintaining a backup one. When someone cheats, they are revealing their true identity to you. Someone who will jeopardize everything you've worked so hard to create for fleeting pleasure, lie when it's easier, and betray you when it's convenient. The worst part is that, according to statistics, those who cheat on, they have a 350% higher chance of cheating again. Believe someone when they demonstrate to you that they are capable of such betrayal. Using your weaknesses as a weapon is the seventh unforgivable conduct. This is the individual who utilizes your most intense anxieties, trauma, and insecurities as a point of contention. You share your eating disorder and confidence with them. When you argue, they call you obese. You talk about the abuse you experienced as a child. It's said that anger damages you. You talk candidly about depression. In an attempt to win debates, they label you insane. When someone takes advantage of your weaknesses, they're doing more than just causing you immediate pain. They're making sure you won't ever be at risk again. They're teaching you that intimacy is equivalent to ammo, that openness is equivalent to danger, and that trust is equivalent to offering a weapon. They are ruining not only this relationship, but also your chances of forming more in the future. Because they believe no one else would comprehend their vulnerabilities, I have witnessed people continue to live with partners who had weaponized their most private information. Here's the reality, though. Someone who takes advantage of your suffering is not sympathetic. They take advantage of it. Compassion, not harshness, is the result of genuine understanding. Genuine love shields your weaknesses rather than draws attention to them. The cycle of abuse and love bombing is the 10th unforgivable deed. This individual will ruin you Monday through Friday before spending the weekend making extravagant gestures. Who yells at you, then purchases flowers, who makes fun of you, and then arranges romantic vacations, who destroys you and then gives you just enough strength to keep you going. The purpose of this cycle is specifically to foster trauma bonding. The highs seem like salvation because of the terrible lows. You're always nervous and attempting to earn the good version because of the uncertainty. You get dependent on the times of relief without understanding that doing so indicates that you are being damaged. Recovery times are not necessary in healthy relationships. The love bombing phase involves manipulation rather than love. They're afraid you'll go, not regretful. They won't change. The trap is being reset, and every cycle becomes worse. The lows decrease. When you're constantly abused and receiving just enough breadcrumbs of love to keep you starving but not quite dead, the highs get shorter. Let's now discuss why people put up with the inexcusable. The sunk cost fallacy comes first. I have invested for 5 years. I am unable to depart at this time. However, staying won't bring back those years. More years are simply wasted. You aren't available for someone who won't respect you every day you spend time with someone who does. The fear of solitude comes in second. Here's what you should know, though. The worst thing that can happen to you is not being by yourself. It is worse than being alone to be with someone who undermines your sense of value, causes you to doubt reality, and transforms love into conflict. You can recover on your own. You can rebuild by yourself. When you're alone yourself, you're protected from harm. Third, the idea that unending forgiveness is a prerequisite for love. However, forgiving without action is merely permission. Unrestrained forgiveness is self-destruction. People learn that hurting you is okay when you forgive them without holding them accountable. Forgiving the unforgivable is not a prerequisite for true love. In the first place, real love doesn't do things that aren't forgiven. The fourth is the expectation that they will change. They are focusing on improving themselves. Their early years were difficult. They're not sincere. However, justifications are not justifications. Being aware of the reasons for someone else's hurt does not make it acceptable. Furthermore, a person who is genuinely changing doesn't beg for pardon. They start by changing regularly without needing to cause you extra harm to demonstrate their differences. Fifth, poisonous behavior has become more commonplace. When your friends all have similar issues, when you are raised to view relationships as battlefields, and when jealousy is portrayed in the media as passion and control is concerned, it appears that dysfunction is normal. However, common does not equate to healthy. Normalized does not imply that it is acceptable. You don't have to put up with rudeness just because everyone else does. Here are some real examples of healthy relationships so you can see the difference. Healthy relationships have respectful disagreements. They have limits without being watched. They don't keep their identities a secret. They assist without exerting control. They converse without deceiving. They love without threats or restrictions. In wholesome partnerships, confidence is offered and upheld rather than sought and betrayed. Respect comes naturally and isn't acquired via hardship. Consistent behavior, not extravagant displays of affection after hurt, is how love is demonstrated. Instead of being generated by one and suffered by the other, problems are resolved collaboratively. Growth is a two-way street. One person cannot continuously forgive while the other continuously offends. Here are some things you should know if you're reading this and are aware of your relationship. When someone chooses to treat you poorly, it's not your fault. Their actions speak more about their personality than your value. You are unable to. Their chances of cheating again are 350% higher. When someone proves to you that they are capable of such treachery, you should believe them. Utilizing your vulnerabilities as a weapon is the 8th unacceptable behavior. This is the person who uses your deepest fears, trauma, and insecurities as a reason for conflict. You confide in them and tell them about your eating disorder. They call you fat when you fight. You discuss the maltreatment you endured as a youngster. Anger is thought to be harmful. You discuss depression openly. They call you crazy to get a better argument score. When someone exploits your vulnerabilities, they're doing more than just hurting you right away. They are ensuring that you will never again be in danger. What they're teaching you is that trust is like putting out a gun, openness is like danger, and intimacy is like ammunition. They're destroying not just this relationship, but also your future prospects of establishing more. I have seen people continue to live with partners who have weaponized their most personal information because they felt no one else would understand their weaknesses. But here is the truth. A person is not compassionate if they exploit your pain. They exploit it. True comprehension leads to compassion, not hostility. Instead of highlighting your flaws, true love protects them. The 9th unforgivable act is the cycle of abuse and love bombing. This person will spend the weekend making lavish gestures after ruining you Monday through Friday. Who makes fun of you, buys flowers, and then plans romantic getaways after yelling at you. Someone who ruins you and then provides you the strength to survive. This cycle is specifically designed to promote trauma bonding. The awful lows make the highs look like rescue. The ambiguity makes you anxious all the time and makes you try to earn the good version. You get reliant upon the moments of respite without realizing that this is a sign of harm. Healthy relationships do not require recovery periods. Instead of affection, manipulation is involved in the love bombing phase. They're not sorry. They're scared you'll leave. They are not going to change. They're resetting the trap. And each cycle becomes worse. The lows get lower. The highs become shorter when you're being mistreated all the time and getting just enough love to keep you hungry, but not quite dead. Now let's talk about why people tolerate the unacceptable. The first is the sunk cost fallacy. I have 5 years of investment experience. At this moment, I cannot leave. But those years won't return if you stay. It's just a waste of more years. Spending time with someone who respects you every day means you aren't available for someone who doesn't. The second is the fear of being alone. However, here's what you should know. Being alone is the worst thing that can happen to you. Being with someone who diminishes your sense of worth, makes you question reality, and turns love into conflict is worse than being alone. You are capable of healing yourself. You are capable of rebuilding on your own. You are safe from harm when you are by yourself. Third, the notion that love requires unwavering forgiving. But forgiveness without action is just consent. Self-destruction is the result of unbridled forgiving. When you forgive someone without holding them responsible, they learn that it's acceptable to hurt you. True love does not need forgiveness of the inexcusable. First of all, genuine love never does anything that cannot be forgiven. The expectation that they will change is the fourth. Their goal is to better themselves. Their formative years were challenging. They aren't real. But explanations are not explanations. It is not appropriate to be aware of the causes of another person's pain. And someone who is truly changed doesn't ask for forgiveness. They begin by making frequent changes without causing you further injury to show their differences. Fifth, toxic conduct has become more widespread. When jealousy is portrayed in the media as passion and control as concern, when you are brought up to see relationships as battlegrounds, and when all of your friends have similar problems, dysfunction seems to be the norm. Common does not, however, mean healthy. Normalization is not the same as acceptance. Just because everyone else is disrespectful doesn't mean you have to put up with it. To help you understand the difference, below are some actual instances of wholesome relationships. Respectful disputes are a feature of healthy relationships. Without being seen, they have limitations. Their identities are not kept a secret. They help without taking charge. They talk openly and honestly. They love without limitations or dangers. Instead of being sought and deceived, trust is granted and maintained in healthy relationships. Respect doesn't have to be earned through difficulty. It comes naturally. Love is shown through consistent action rather than ostentatious outbursts of affection following hurt. Problems are solved cooperatively rather than being created by one and endured by the other. One person cannot continue to forgive while the other keeps offending. Growth is a two-way street. If you're reading this and are aware of your relationship, you should be aware of the following. It's not your fault if someone decides to treat you badly. Their behavior says more about their character than your worth. You can't. To start conflicts, give up viewing forgiveness as a virtue when it's actually a vulnerability being taken advantage of. When forgiveness is achieved with transformation, it is very lovely. When combined with accountability, it is effective. When there is sincere regret and change, it is therapeutic. However, forgiveness isn't forgiveness if it lacks any of these components. Denial is the cause. You are free to depart if someone in your life engages in these unacceptable behaviors. Waiting for it to grow bad enough is not necessary. It's not necessary to try everything at once. You don't require their comprehension or consent. To go on, you don't have to forgive. All you have to do is acknowledge that you deserve more and take appropriate action. This is when boundaries come into play. They're not cruel. They are essential. I won't accept lies isn't a harsh statement. It's good for you. I won't tolerate disrespect is not a demanding statement. It's simple. Declaring, I won't forgive abuse is self-preservation, not intolerant. Setting limits isn't about dominating other people. Their purpose is self-defense. The world will make an effort to persuade you that unconditional love entails accepting behavior without conditions. Love isn't that. Martyrdom is that. There are requirements for true love: trust, safety, integrity, and respect. Without these prerequisites, it's exploitation masquerading as love rather than true love. Don't let the attire deceive you. There are issues in every relationship, but not all of them can be forgiven. Although everyone makes errors, not all of them are acceptable. Not everyone deserves access to you, but everyone deserves compassion. Not everyone will change, but everyone can. Furthermore, you don't have to wait around to discover a person's categorization. Take this away from this if you just take one thing. Respect should not have to be gained via hardship. Rather, it should be a given in a partnership, where love is demonstrated by ongoing concern rather than post-harm apologies, where confidence is kept rather than continuously betrayed and reclaimed, where you truly feel loved, respected, and safe because of who you are, not in spite of who you are. The unacceptable behaviors we've talked about aren't errors or miscommunications. They're decisions. Decisions to injure, trick, manipulate, or take advantage of. Additionally, when someone consistently makes these decisions, they're revealing their true self to you. Have faith in them. Don't pardon them. Get away from them, because you should not waste your life on someone who views it as disposable. Asking why I'm accepting this is more important than asking, how can I make this work? Give up speculating about when they will change and begin accepting that this is who they are. Give up thinking, I love them, and begin remembering they don't love me. Not at all, not in a healthy way and not acceptable. You only have one life to live. You cannot reclaim these years. You're not given a second chance. You aren't available for true love, respect, or cooperation every day you spend with someone who treats you in an inexcusable manner. You could be mending, developing, and thriving with someone who would never need such forgiveness for every moment you squander forgiving the unforgivable. Tolerating abuse is not the strongest thing you can do. It's to turn it down. Staying and fighting isn't the most courageous thing you can do. It is to depart and prosper. Forgiving the unforgivable is not the most loving thing you can do for your future, for yourself, or for any children involved. The purpose is to release yourself from anyone who could request it. I'd like to talk to you. Which trends have you identified? What limits have you come to the realization that you must establish? Which actions have you been able to forgive? Post your thoughts in the comments section, not to embarrass anyone, but to assist others in identifying these trends. Sometimes hearing someone else articulate your precise predicament serves as the reminder that it's time to speak up. Keep in mind that leaving doesn't mean giving up on love. It means ceasing to accept anything less than love. It isn't heart-stopping. It's giving it the chance to experience true love. It's not a failure. It's the first step to achieving your goal of discovering what you truly deserve. Forgiveness is not due to the inexcusable. Furthermore, you don't merit having to put up with the unforgivable.